the biggest entrepreneur platform on the planet. This is Business Rockstars. Welcome to Business Rockstars. I'm Alex Worley, joined by Lauren Everett-Bostick, the creator of The Skinny Confidential. Thanks so much for being here, girl.
Thank you for having me.
You bet. So we just figured out it's been 2 years since I interviewed you last, and you just keep getting busier and busier. I get overwhelmed for you by watching your Instagram.
Yeah, it's a lot, but it's fun. It's a lot of movement momentum. This weekend, I actually took 3 days off of Instagram story, which I'm really proud of myself about.
That's amazing.
It was hard, but I did it.
Well, yeah, and if you follow her, you would know that that's hard because she's on it all the time. But I love that you just shared a little secret that you batch your Instagram stories, which is the first good little tip that we can share, because watching you, I get a little exhausted where I'm like, oh my gosh, she's always on. But it might look like you're always on, but you find a way to streamline it. Tell me about that.
Yeah, so I time batch all the time, and we can get into what that is. But with Instagram stories, I felt like I was posting in the moment and not enjoying the moment in front of me. So what I try to do now is I Instagram story in batches. So I'll do 4 times a day where I sit down and do all the content in one, 15 minutes, if that makes sense.
Sure.
So for the first, 6 hours of the day, I'll batch that and then post it and then keep doing that throughout the day, because if you do it in the moment, 1, you can't get the fonts and colors that you want. And 2, you want to make sure you do your location tags and make it so there's a takeaway for the audience. And so when I can batch and sit back and really pay attention to it and give it sort of the attention it deserves, I feel like I'm giving value.
Yeah, so it's still timely, but it's produced to be on brand.
Yes. Yeah, I want to make sure that the audience is getting something out of it, rather just me in the moment just showing what I'm doing. There has to be some kind of takeaway.
Yeah, totally. Okay, so for those who don't follow you, let's tell your story from the very beginning, because I love this. You were a college student at the time, right? So tell me how you kind of stumbled into being a blogger influencer.
So it was actually 8 years ago, which is crazy. I was going to San Diego State University. I was bartending until midnight, and I would come home and wake up in the morning and teach Pure Barre and Pilates and go to school, rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat. And I almost couldn't believe it. I was like, wait, this is it? It wasn't fulfilling, I guess is the word.
Yeah.
And I just always was trying to find this creative way to sort of make friends. And so everyone goes and does a sorority. And I was like, okay, I'll do that. So I went and did a sorority, and they said, it's $800. And I said, wait a minute, I'm busting my butt. And I'm teaching and bartending and doing all these things. And now I have to pay to have friends. So I thought, how can I connect women in a spot, maybe online, where it's free, where I can share tips and tricks and sort of have that sorority life online? And then how can I actually take it a step further and make it all over the world? And so, I thought a blog. Now, this is when blogging was not cool. So there was no Instagram. It was not something people did. And I was bartending at a very exclusive bar with very, very wealthy men. And I would tell the people that I was serving at the bar what my idea was, and they would literally laugh. Like, everyone just didn't understand how someone could monetize off a blog.
Because it wasn't a thing yet.
No, it was not a thing. And I always thought when I launched the blog of it as a brand and a foundation. And we can sort of get into that, but I just really had an intention of providing value, launching as a brand, and knowing that things would grow off the blog. And I think when I look back at myself 8 years ago, I think what influencers are sort of doing now is they're getting into the business sometimes for the wrong reasons, like just to monetize. And I think you really have to think about why you want to get into this business. And I can go off on tangents all day long.
Well, and ultimately, unless you are providing value to an audience, you're not going to grow.
Absolutely.
And I think the thing to me that's mind-boggling hearing your story is the vision that you had before this even existed. And I feel like a lot of times the most successful people in the world, they start with a really huge vision, and that's really the only way to grow into it. So where do you think that vision came from within you?
I really create my own strategic future. And what that means is I'm very, very crystal clear, and I have a lot of clarity on the direction that I'm going and what I'm doing. And I've always been like that. I just know what I want and what I don't want. I'm very like beating to the tune of my own drum. I don't listen to outside noise. And a lot of people don't like that. That's not for everyone. With the vision of the brand, I laid out everything I wanted, and then I sort of worked backwards on how to get there. And I always say, you don't get to a goal without systems in place. So I really implemented these systems before they happened. I love the word vision, but I created, instead of a vision board, I created an execution board. And this is really different. So a vision board is something where you sit down and you cut words out of a magazine, or you put other people that inspire you on this board. Instead of doing that, I said, F the vision board, I'm gonna do an execution board. And so I actually built the future of the blog in front of me on a poster board and like laid it out. And I think doing that pushes you more to actually execute on it. I think sometimes a vision board can be sort of that cush between the execution and the non-execution.
Yeah, a vision without execution doesn't get you anywhere.
Yes. I think to really have that clear vision, you need that execution board.
Okay, so you talked about systems in place. What's one or two systems that you just swear by that really, really help you?
My Google Calendar is nuts. It's next level. That's something that I do now, though. I didn't do that from the beginning. You mean at the beginning or now?
Whatever is working for you today.
I would definitely say to have Google Calendars and really monitor your time. So I am all about saving time, and it's obnoxious to what I go to save my time. We just talked about this.
Yeah.
I mean, if I feel that something's wasting my time, I will find a way to figure something out. So an example is getting a blowout at Dry Bar. It sounds so stupid, but that's an hour where I can do a blog post. Taking an Uber where I can sit and batch my Instagram content. Doing things like that, listening to a podcast while I'm cooking. Everything for me has to be like passively multitasking. And I don't call it multitasking because I'm not splitting my focus. I call it passive multitasking because I'm doing something that's super, super productive, where maybe I'm gaining knowledge or doing something to build my brand, while I'm doing something passive. Always. So like getting your hair done doesn't need your focus, right?
Yeah.
You can focus on building your brand. So I'm constantly monitoring my time.
And you're thinking of time as money, which it is.
Yes.
So it's worth the extra money to Dry Bar so you get more time toward your blog.
Yes. And it's a weird thing to explain to people because people sometimes don't understand when I say that. But I believe that a huge part of the reason I've built my brand is because I'm so conscious of my time. Sometimes I can be late, as you know, but at the end of the day, like every single thing is monitored. Even from like my driving time to when I wake up, it's very laid out.
And I'm sure a lot of that takes saying no often, right?
Definitely.
Because you, like you said, you don't want to waste your time. So that really means exercising that muscle, probably disappointing people sometimes and saying, no, I'm sorry, this appointment or whatever it is, it doesn't fit into my vision and execution plan.
Yes, I said yes to every single thing for 6 years. Everything. Like even I remember this little girl that was 14, like had a book report that she wanted to do. And I said yes to everything. I responded to all my emails, all my DMs. I would spend an hour in the morning and an hour at night just responding and engaging and really being a part of the community, and then doing all the interviews, anything that was thrown at me. And then after 6 years, I started to see sort of this shift. It was like I could take my brand to the next level, or I could really, spend time saying yes to everything. So I've been a little bit more cutthroat the last 2 years with my time. I think the most important way to spend my time is towards my community. That's always number one. But instead of doing 7 blog posts a week, I'll do 4 that are really quality content. So I think time is just something that people really don't think about a lot, and it's something that I'm obsessed with.
Going back to the saying yes the first 6 years, do you think saying yes to everything helped you in that stage? I mean, obviously, different stages of your career and business weren't for different things. Do you think saying yes is really important for the first 6 years?
Absolutely. I think that, and I think being humble is so important. And I think when you're just starting out, noses to the grindstone, hustle, 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 hustle. I think that, especially in this industry that's, you need to have that hustle and just say yes. And there's things that are uncomfortable and you lose sleep and, maybe you're overwhelmed. But I do think in those first 5 years especially, it's important to say yes. And then you can step back and say, okay, how am I going to take this to the next level?
Yeah.
That's been hard for me.
Amazing. Well, we're going to discuss how she took it to the next level, built an incredible community when we come back. I'm Alex Worley, and this is Business Rockstars. Welcome back to Business Rockstars. I'm Alex Worley, continuing my conversation with the creator of The Skinny Confidential, which has become a huge brand with an amazing, loyal, engaging community. Tell me what you think has made the difference over the years. Has there been a few things that just really, really helped grow that community?
Yeah, I think that I have always put my community first. Always. Mm-hmm. It's so important to me. And what I would do, and I still do this, I would do an hour, like I said, in the morning and an hour at night of really engaging. It was rinse and repeat in my calendar for like 6 years. Now I probably do a half an hour in the morning and a half an hour at night.
And break down what you mean by engaging, probably responding to comments and what else?
I respond to emails, DMs, comments. It's a lot of DMs now because Instagram has obviously added that feature. Snapchat has been incredible. I know people have jumped off, but it's like a way for me to text message my readers. Mm-hmm. And then all day I'll go and we have like a secret Facebook group where I'll go in and I'll talk to all these women who are like-minded and in this like incredible tribe.
And you're actually the person who's responding to these messages and comments.
I am responding to all my DMs, that's all me, all my Snapchats, and in the Facebook group.
Yeah, which is amazing because, guys, she has hundreds of thousands of followers, so you can only imagine how many comments and DMs that you get. So that's time-consuming, but obviously there's a reason you feel it's important it comes from you. Why is that?
I think that the audience can smell bullshit. I mean, there'll be times when they email and I'll have to, forward it to someone that works with me and they'll get an answer. But if they want to talk to me through DM or Snapchat, I really, really try. I do my best to respond to as much as I can. I think there's two types of influencers. There's the influencer that it's more based on community, and there's one that's more of a celebrity. Mm-hmm. And I think that you sort of make a choice, and one is not better than the other because, I mean, look at Chiara Ferragni of the Blonde Salad. She's a celebrity. I mean, It's crazy what she's built for herself. I have so much respect for that. For me, I, want to do meetups. I want to hear about what the community is doing. I don't want it to be about Lauren Everett's. I want it to be more about, which is why I didn't name it laureneveretts.com. I want it to be about a bigger sort of movement than me, where I'm connecting women. I think when the secret Facebook group launched, for me, that was like such just like full circle because it's everything that I wanted when I started with that sorority sort of idea come together with a free platform. I mean, I think that you just sort of have to pick as an influencer what you want to be. I also have noticed that I, on Instagram, comment back on comment sections. I follow my audience. I go like their photos. I'll comment on their stuff. Whereas, some influencers will do like comment pods and stuff like that. It's just, I think the strategy for me has always been the focus on the people that are supporting the platform. Not trying to get more, but focusing on who's already there. I feel like when you focus on the people that are already supporting you, they're influencers in themselves, and they'll go out and spread the word for you.
Totally. And I think that's where a lot of influencers and brands get it wrong, is they make it all about them, where if you're a business, you're making it exclusively about your product. If you're an influencer, it's just all about your image. And not to say that it doesn't sometimes work, and maybe sometimes there's even a place for it, but the brands and influencers I'm seeing like you that are killing it, they're really adding value in some way, and that way maybe a community. So what would you say is the way that you add value most? What does your community walk away from when they are a part of, or walk away with rather, when they're a part of the Skinny Confidential community?
I think that as a brand or an influencer, you always should position the reader or the consumer, if you're a brand, as the hero. And the second that you really fundamentally understand that you are not the hero, and that the consumer or the reader or the audience, whatever it is the hero, I feel like there's a shift. And every single thing that you start to post needs to have this takeaway. So Mel Gibson said that with his movies, he wanted to educate, entertain, or inspire. And if you can do all three at once, you have it.
Yeah.
So with all the content I do, even if it's an Instagram story, it has to do one of those or hopefully all three.
Yeah.
So it has to and I also would add to Mel Gibson's quote, engage. So if you can do those four things, I think that you are doing your job as an influencer. And so that's just really what I try to do.
That's a good point about engaging, because that's what social media has allowed us to do, is to have a two-way conversation. It's not just like a movie for Mel Gibson where it's, movie to consumer. It's a two-way conversation. Such good stuff. I wish we had more time. I literally could talk to you for hours, but thank you so much for your 20 minutes today.
Thank you for having me.
I'm Alex Worley, and this is Business Rockstars.
Have you ever thought to yourself, I would like to become an entrepreneur? You can join one of the largest communities on the planet now, free. Go to cofounderslab.com. Cofounderslab.com. That's cofounderslab.com.
Welcome back to Business Rockstars. Now let's go to Mark Lack.
Joining us right now is Frank Marangel. He's the president and CEO of Rise. It's a pleasure to have you on the show with us. Tell us about your company.
It is my pleasure.
We were just having a fun conversation about 3D printing.
We were. It's amazing that you know something about 3D printing, which is great. It actually shows the transition from 10 years ago when I used to have to explain what 3D printing was. People thought it was bubble printing on, on paper, when everybody knows 3D printing today.
I've been studying it for 5 years, and I remember back then people 3D printing.
Exactly. So good for you. Anyway, I've been in 3D printing for 10 years, and industrial plastic 3D printing. Yeah. And I was with Objet, and we merged with Stratasys, two names that are part of the 3D printing history. I left to find my next challenge, and I came across the founder of Rise, which is a material scientist, and he had an idea that's going to change the way plastic 3D printing is accomplished, making real end-use parts in product surface finish, geometric accuracy, and full color. To do that is amazing. Today's 3D printers don't do that. So they were looking for a CEO. I was looking for my next challenge. I jumped in. That was about a little over 2 years ago. We got venture funded, and we went to town.
So what excites you most about this space, though? You know, being passionate in business and doing what you love obviously has a lot. You said you want to go to the next challenge.
Yeah,
so you see this space being that next challenge for you, obviously?
I think it was the next challenge. You know what's really interesting? I wasn't looking for the job with Objet. I had been bringing innovative high-tech companies to the U.S. for the last 20 years. And when as many of those are Israeli companies. So I had connections in the Israeli high-tech world. So when Objet was...
Those guys are cranking out the technology over there.
They are. Actually, there's more startups in Israel than anywhere in the world except for the U.S. And I love startups. So this was amazing. So when Objet was looking for a U.S. president to start up their U.S. business in 2006, it was in the 3D printing space, and I wasn't interested. But I happened to go to Israel. I saw what they're doing, and I saw 3D printing. And I said, are you kidding me? I never heard of 3D printing back in 2006.
Yeah.
It can just grow magically off of the plate.
I know when I first heard about it too, I was like, this is like the Jetson stuff.
Exactly.
You just like type something in on the computer and it just makes it for you.
Yeah, it's Avatar. Yeah. You know, it's the Star Trek replicator. It's amazing. You know, so I had to jump in it. And just as another side, all my life I've been in this high-tech world and selling optical inspection machines or some stuff like that. And, you know, I have had two little girls that are now 29 and 26. And they've always like, what does your dad do? I don't know. He sells some stuff. But for the last 10 years, they've said, yeah, my dad's running a 3D printing company. So it's, I mean...
And now people start to actually know what that means.
Exactly. So to be part of this 3D printing revolution is amazing and thrills me and gets me up and motivated every day.
You're obviously a successful entrepreneur now, but did you always know you wanted to be an entrepreneur? Or was this something that you kind of stumbled into?
You know, I always did, and I wasn't exactly sure. So I did an engineering degree and an MBA to combine to try to start up a business. Actually started up a business in just post-college in biorhythms, trying to bring biorhythms to the masses. And we made some money. We lost some money, but it was, I always say it's
so you were in business.
It's a great Harvard business case, you know. So that was a little bit of a taste. And then I was working for a big company, and I decided that wasn't for me. So I started being sales managers of smaller companies where you're an important factor in that, and then grew through the ranks as far as, you know, vice president, presidents of those companies. And you feel like, even though it's not your company, you own your little small piece of the pie. I lived in Europe for 5 years, and a few of those I was managing a Northern Europe team, sales team, management team.
Where in Europe?
I lived in Manchester, UK, and in Brussels.
Nice. Been to both those places. They're lovely places.
Yeah, Brussels, I think, one of the best places I've been to in the world. But grab it, own it, make it, even if it's not your company, make your business yours. Own it. Own your employees. Lead them by example. That's the other thing that I really feel is critical, especially in today's world. Employees don't want to be told what to do. They want to be led, and then they'll do more than you even think that they can do.
My question I want to know about you is, when you made the shift, how do you know that you're built to be an entrepreneur? I think nowadays everybody wants to do it, but 99% of people don't have the DNA to become and weather the storms to become a successful entrepreneur. So what do you think the DNA is of a successful entrepreneur?
Yeah, I think it has a lot to do with confidence, because many steps along the way, you question whether it's going to work. And I don't know what the statistics is. You probably know better than me how many fail. But I know from a VC standpoint, more than half of their investments fail. So probably that's pretty close to the number.
It's like 80% of small businesses fail in 10 years or something like that.
Yes, yeah. So even from the high-risk venture, it's even more probably.
Yeah.
So they need to make it in a few big places. There's a good chance you're going to fail. You have to understand that maybe it's not you. But you got to do everything you can to do and still have the confidence to fight through every challenge along the way. And not everybody is made to have that challenge or that confidence. And I can say that it took time to grow there. So you do it in baby steps. You know, you take that regional responsibility, that territory responsibility, then take on that country responsibility. And then I think, so that was my progression, was from owning a territory to owning the U.S. business to, you know, Europe business to owning basically this global business and starting up this business. So it's a great progression that I would recommend highly to anybody that wants to do it. I did it through the sales side. Even though I had an engineering degree, I did it through sales and sales management, and then managing a team of sales, marketing, customer support, operations, finance.
Well, you're the perfect example of the compound effect. Take small, consistent steps and compound those over a long enough period of time, and you can accomplish anything. We'll be right back with Frank Marangel to talk more about his business. This is Business Rockstars. I'm Mark Lack.
Welcome back to Business Rockstars. Now let's go to Mark Lack.
Joining us right now is Frank Marangel. He's the president and CEO of Rise. Good to have you with us. Recap first what your company does.
Mark, we are changing the way 3D printing is designing and manufacturing products out there. We have a new innovative patented technology called APD, Augmented Polymer Deposition, that is going to create real end-use parts in the 3D printing marketplace. Today, 3D printing is done only in prototyping, and we're going to move that into the manufacturing space.
So we were just talking about product market fit. How do you know when you're going to bring a product out into the marketplace?
Yes.
That's a mistake I see a lot of small businesses make, even big ones, but especially small ones. They spend their time, their energy, their money doing R&D, doing product development, and then they try to go out and they try to market this out into the space, so to speak, and then they find out that maybe the product market fit is off, the message to market match is off. There could be a lot of different things for why a company doesn't successfully launch a product. How are you guys confident that what you're doing is going to get your product out into the marketplace and be successful for you guys?
Yeah, so we are industry leaders, industry experts, I guess, if I can use that term. And so we know the 3D printing industrial market space. We are coming to market in a few steps. So we've talked to those leaders in the industry that will be our customers, and they've guided us to what the industry needs in the short term and in the long term. So in the short term, there is a need for the product that we're coming out with to solve the limitations of today's 3D printers in prototyping and manufacturing tooling. Today, prototyping is done in the lab and not in the engineering desktop. And that's like 2D printing, something that the industry wants to solve. The lab is fine. It's great to have a 3D printing lab, but the ability to have a printer that's right next to the user is more important. If you think about your laser 2D printer, it's the exact same situation. That why would you want to go down to a printing room when you can print a laser a document right next to your computer?
Let's talk about strategy of preeminence.
Yes.
How are you guys differentiating yourselves? Because at the end of the day, I feel like companies that ultimately succeed and become industry, Goliaths versus the small companies that we maybe don't hear of, or the small companies that get acquired, they have a strategy of preeminence.
Yes.
So my question is, how are you guys setting up a strategy of preeminence to make sure that you become the dominant brand?
Yes. So first we have the IP that's amazing. So that's the first, that's an important thing. We have a team that knows the industry and is experienced. So hopefully we're not going to learn from our own mistakes. We can learn from our mistakes from our past. Yeah. We know the problems of today's 3D printers. For the low-hanging fruit, our printer solves those problems. People are excited to use our printer because it's saving them almost 100% of the time. It's saving them twice the cost. Today's 3D printers on post-processing cost $25,000 to $50,000 a printer just to get a part from the printer to usable. Then headcount is 2 to 3 times. Facilities are 2 to 3 times. It's a lot of expense. I didn't even mention environmental concerns. Today's 3D printers are environmentally wasteful. They produce a lot of waste.
The ones that have been around for 20 years.
That's right. Okay. There's a lot of material that is wasted, both alcohol, sodium hydroxide, a lot of waste in the process to get a 3D printed part. And that's why they're vented. That's why they're in labs. That waste is something that we should try to do without. And RISE has solved that problem. So we have 0 emissions and 0 waste. Everything that is a residual of our process can be recycled. So it really, I don't want to say we're a green printer, but we are environmentally safe enough to be used outside of the 3D printing lab.
For sales and marketing and for partnerships, how do you guys go about that? I feel like they're probably not small deals. You're probably not selling, as you said, B2C. You're doing B2B. So those are probably large, important partnerships and deals.
Yes.
How are you guys structuring those? And why are they choosing you?
Sure. So they're choosing us because of the value proposition, but they're informed from a few different mechanisms that we have. We're hiring accomplished salespeople that are going to go to the Fortune 500 and sell to the executive. So we're selling top down from the Fortune 500 standpoint. From the long tail of marketing leads, and we're going to do a lot of marketing, a lot of branding, a lot of lead generation. For that long tail of those leads, the one-offs, those that are less than Fortune 500, we're going to sell through very efficiently through inside sales and sales tools that allow us to sell without having direct contact with the customer. It's amazing how people will buy a 3D printer from seeing a part, from talking about value proposition, and from getting a proposal from the manufacturer. So that is the mechanism, as well as having global referrals from anybody. You could be a referral, Mark, and we will pay you to provide us a lead that turns into a sale.
What do you think's been one of the biggest aha moments in your career? I feel like if you can be a collector of people's aha moments, it might take Warren Buffett 30 years to have a crazy aha moment about investing or business or life. I'd want to know what that is. So I found that if you can be a collector of people's aha moments, it can rapidly accelerate this, trajectory of your success, and it can also collapse decades of wisdom into days, months, and years. So what's 1 or 2 aha moments you've had in business?
I go way back for my first one, which is I was a manufacturing engineer. I had the benefit of equipping an entire facility, millions of dollars worth of equipment. And I thought I was a pretty good engineer. I had good justification why I picked one supplier over another. But I found that the suppliers weren't as good as I was. I knew the justification of their equipment better than they did. So I saw them making the money, and I decided to make the transition from engineering to sales.
Yeah.
And it fit me. On top of that, I connected some years later with an Israeli company and got in with an Israeli high-tech environment, and that worked for me as well. So, you never know where it's going to go, but follow your heart and go where you're appreciated, and it took me here.
Well, you said, follow your heart, and I think that's why most people get into entrepreneurship. We talked earlier about, don't just make a dollar, make a difference.
That's right.
Some people get into business to make the money. Some people get into it because they're following their passion and they're following their heart. So as we wrap up this segment, for the people out there who have a 9-to-5 job, they haven't cut the cord, and they haven't started following their passion. Maybe it's their dream to start their own business. They just don't know when the right time is. They just don't know how. Short and sweet, what's your advice?
There's never the right time. I say, earn the money during your day job and work the rest of your life to do something that you're passionate about. We spend way too much time at work. And there was something I heard in some motivational book a long time ago, which is those that are winning, that racehorse is a fraction of a second that makes billions of dollars more than those that trail. And it's a whole lot easier to be the leading horse than the trailing horse. So do something you're passionate about and lead.
Fantastic.
And you won't
advice.
regret it.
That's amazing. Frank, pleasure having you on the show with us.
My pleasure.
Thank you.
After this short break, more Business Rock Stars. This is Business Rock Stars. My rock star today, Edwin Benton. He's the founder of the Cat Apps. Thanks so much for being here.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, so tell me about the Cat Apps.
The Cat Apps, we just released our first flagship app called Slang and Friends with Ludacris. It's a word game. It's a reinvention of the word game. What we did differently is we added slang dictionaries from around the world. So if you play a slang word, instead of denying you, we give you bonus points in our game.
Interesting. So what is defined as a slang word? What are you, I mean, we all know what a slang word is, but what is it defined as in your app context?
A word that is in use but not in the standard dictionary.
Got it. So I bet a bunch of new slang words are popping up all the time that people aren't familiar with.
Correct.
But how do you know if it's real or they're just totally making it up?
Well, what happens is in our game, you can actually submit slang words. And if it's a real word, we research it, and if it is, we'll add it to our database. And then,
Okay, so that's the point, is for people to make up new cool words.
Not make them up, but to let us know that they exist so we can add them to the database. Because we want to connect as many people as we can with our unique language, right?
Yeah, so what was the inspiration specifically behind this app?
Well, the inspiration was I grew up playing Scrabble. I've played Words with Friends. And in those games, there's words I want to play, but I couldn't.
Yeah, been there before.
Exactly. So we solved that problem, right? So, there's tons of words that we all use that's just not in the standard dictionary. So I called a couple of my friends, and we created the very first prototype of Slang and Friends 4 years ago.
Yeah, it makes it more fun and personable.
Yeah.
Nice. And you got Ludacris on board. How'd you do that?
Well, I had a friend who knew his manager, and he knew what we were trying to do. And we just happened to be out at an event and see the manager. And so he introduced us. And because Ludacris is a wordie himself, and I pitched the idea to him, and just instantly, he was like, that's genius. So he set up a call that week, that Wednesday, and then from then on, we just made it happen.
Yeah, a lot of people say it's all about who you know, but in this case, it was someone you knew who knew someone else.
Correct.
And so it goes to show people are really accessible and sometimes just one person away.
Exactly.
So what a great connection you got to make.
Exactly. You have to tell people what you're working on. A lot of entrepreneurs want to keep things to themselves because they're afraid somebody's going to steal it, but that's not the way to do it. You tell everybody what you're working on because they can connect you with people. There's doors and windows that you don't know exist. So share that thought.
It's so true. I hear a lot of entrepreneurs say, oh, I was just talking to someone in the grocery line, and all of a sudden, they were just the connection I needed. So it goes to show, never underestimate talking about your business.
Absolutely. Like, once you have an idea and you start working on it, the universe starts moving to make it happen.
Yeah,
So
but you got to
don't
put
go
it out
against
there.
Yeah.
So what are some of the expenses involved in making an app that people might not know about if they're just starting a company? And what are some ways to get creative and cut on costs?
Some of the expenses you have to think about are like updates, right? Once you get the app built, which you have to pay for, you have to pay to maintain the app, right? And one of those things, one of those expenses is server costs too. So if you get a lot of people using the app, your server bill goes up. You know, whether you're making more money or not, you're gonna have to pay the bill of the server, whether it's to Amazon or whoever. That's a huge cost. That can be anywhere between, you know, $1,000 and $4,000 a month, you know. And so that's a huge expense that people really don't think about.
And then what's a good way to cut back on some of those expenses of getting creative and streamlining the process of entrepreneurship in the tech space?
I was told after I got my server going and paying $1,000 a month that I could join some type of workspace situation, and they offer free server capacity to individuals there. Something like that. Those are kind of creative ways to cut back on costs.
So really talk to people, because people know how to streamline things for you.
You definitely have to talk to people. You have to utilize your friends to help out with designs and sound stuff rather than paying individuals. Utilize websites like Fiverr, you know, $5 you can get people to do different gigs.
I've used it.
Yeah,
really good opportunity.
Fiverr's great.
There. So you said you're at a workspace?
I'm not at a workspace. That's something somebody suggested to me. To help cut with the server costs. I haven't even had the time to look into that, but that's...
Yeah. Do you work out of your home, or do you have an office?
I have an office at home.
Is that ever distracting, or how do you... No. Okay, you're just like, no, I'm good. Because a lot of entrepreneurs do find it distracting working at home.
It can be, but I've designed my office in a way to where it's not that many distractions.
So it feels like there's a good separation between where the office is and where your home is.
Absolutely, and I'm disciplined. Like, as an entrepreneur, you have to be disciplined. And one of the tools that I use is very simple, but I do a checklist every single day. And so if I create a checklist of things that I must do and I go down that list, it helps me to be so productive.
Oh, that's a really good tip. We're going to talk more about his other tips for staying focused and organized when we come back. My guest, Edwin Benton, he's the founder of the Cat Apps. This is Addiction Subscription, where we review the must-have subscription boxes of the week. If you are a cat lover, KitKnit Box is the best subscription box for you. Each box is uniquely themed and includes custom items designed exclusively for KitKnit Box customers. There are 2 KitKnit Box options: the Happy Cat KitKnit Box, which is the perfect size for households with 1 cat, and the Multi-Cat KitKnit Box, which is the best option for households with 2 or more cats or just 1 pampered kitty. Looking for clean beauty products that actually work? Check out the Organic Bunny box. Organic Bunny has a 1-month, 3-month, or 6-month subscription option. You can find everything from organic eyeshadows and lip glosses to soaps, toners, and face masks. This box is an easy and fun way to clean up your beauty routine. Do you want a meal kit delivery service that offers easy and delicious recipes? Check out Sunbasket, a service that ships members fresh, organic, and sustainable ingredients and recipes every month. Sunbasket provides you the food and a 30-minute recipe designed for busy people delivered to your front door. Thanks for watching Subscription Addiction. Let us know what you're subscribing to. Rockstars, and this is my rock star, Edwin Benton, founder of the Cat Apps. And we were just talking about how you stay organized and on task. One of the tools that you use is Google Keep. So tell me, or is it Google Keeps?
No, it's Google Keep.
Okay,
what Google Keep is, it's kind of a alternative to Evernote. It's a system that Google has that's free that allows you to create check boxes and make little notes and check them off as you go. Very simple, but it's very useful. You can also add pictures and things like that.
Nice. And then you take it a step further by doing time blocking because you have multiple projects at one time.
Correct.
So tell me how you do that.
Yeah, so one way I stay productive and on track is to block out my day. So from 8 to 10, if I'm working on one business, I do that. from 10 to 12, if I'm going to the gym, I do that, you know, whatever the case may be. And in those time blocks, I have a certain list of things that I must accomplish. So that keeps me on track.
So you have a different list for whatever it is you're working on for the time that you blocked out.
Absolutely. And Google Keep helps me with that. Like, that's the benefit of it. It's great. You can just throw them away.
Nice. And you even schedule in things like a workout.
Everything.
Wow.
Schedule everything. Every little thing, big or small, it's on there and there's a check for it.
Okay, so give me more examples of other things that you schedule that we might be surprised about.
If I need to call somebody, that's on the list. Even if I need to read a letter or return an email, that's on the list. Every single thing I put on the list because I have fun checking off those items.
It does feel good to check it off for sure.
Yeah, it gets the ball rolling. So
yeah, you're like, I accomplished something.
Yeah.
I sent an email. Check.
That's the goal. So I get the energy going of accomplishment, and I use that to go throughout the day till I get to those big tasks. And it makes those big tasks not seem as intimidating.
Do you start with the small or the big tasks?
I try to start with the small to get the ball rolling.
To get as much done as you can.
Yeah, exactly.
But still, you're mindful of what the priority is, what needs the most attention right now.
Yeah, and a lot of times these small tasks are part of the big task.
True.
So yeah, it's definitely breaking the big task down into little pieces and make sure that I'm moving in the right direction.
So how much creativity goes into your business?
A lot of creativity initially, and then it's just maintaining that creativity. So when we created Slang and Friends, I had to figure out ways to make it different than the competition. So I had to come up with different backgrounds that people would like and different tile sets. And then I went to Facebook and asked people, and they told me what they thought. And so
you got a lot of feedback.
Yeah, I used my network to get some feedback before we launched.
Yeah, and you have a team. Tell me about all the different people that are on your team.
Yeah, I have a very small team. So I have a lawyer, I have a business operations person, I have a business advisor too, and then I have one assistant, and then I have two programmers, one for iOS and Android. And
of those people, who are full-time employees?
None of them are really employees per se. I do have a contracted assistant that I use he has expertise in every single thing. He's brilliant, and he's helped me to create the game, create the new product that's coming out. And so really great advice for someone just starting out that needs help from other people. Yeah.
You can get independent contractors, and you've even worked out a creative deal with your lawyer. Tell me about that.
Absolutely. So when you're bootstrapping like I am, you want to bring people on your team who can add value. So I knew I needed a lawyer. I reached out to my network. I had a couple lawyer friends and went to one. I told him, I said, hey, this is what I'm working on. I don't want to pay you money, but I can give you some equity on the back end in case we're acquired. What do you think about that? He looked at the project and he realized this is a really good idea, and he came on board. And so, yeah, I also did that with my business operations person. So you have to think creatively when you're funding your own dream to get where you want to be.
Do you have a formal business plan?
I definitely have a business plan that is changing constantly, suddenly.
That's a common thing entrepreneurs say, is my business plan is constantly changing. But do you find it helpful for it to be there even if it is constantly changing?
It's definitely helpful. You need to know where you're going. And if somebody comes to you and say, hey, I like what you're doing, I want to give you $10 million, you want to have something that you can give them to say, okay.
You're like, just because I don't have investors doesn't mean I'm not open to it.
Yeah, I'm definitely open to it. But I have a business plan as a roadmap that we're using to kind of drive where we're headed right now.
So you didn't initially set out to be an entrepreneur. You were originally in filmmaking. So since being an entrepreneur, what's been the highlight and what's been the low light?
The highlights of being an entrepreneur for me are making my own hours. I don't have a boss. I kind of do what I please. And I can get my stuff out there when I want to get it out there. Biggest challenge of being an entrepreneur has been self-funding all my stuff, right? I don't want to wait for anyone else. I'm just like, no, I'm a creator. I'm going to do what I want to do. But in the process of that, I have to pay for it. So when I make those mistakes, I pay for it. So that's the biggest challenge.
Well, you are an inspiration to all of our entrepreneurs watching. Thank you so much for sharing all this insight today.
Thank you for having me.
Really appreciate it. Edwin Benton, founder of the Cat Apps. Thanks for sharing the time with us, and we'll see you next time on Business Rockstars.